And good morning. My name's Dennis Sheehan. I'm one of the personal trainers here at the Johnny's Chafee Fitness Center, Naval Station, Newport. This is Friday Training Tips, brought to you by USAA. As you may know, these Friday Training Tips are exactly what they say. They're training tips. They're not exercise classes. They are little bits of information that are, I hope, designed to help you train more effectively, efficiently, intelligently. And today what I want to do is talk a little bit about ankle dorsiflexion, right? So ankle dorsiflexion happens when your ankle, I gotta stand on one foot here. Okay, right? When your ankle bends up, right? So when your ankle bends up, so when you if you're running, I look pretty awkward there, but your ankle's going to bend, right? And you absolutely need ankle dorsiflexion to do things correctly, running, even walking, right? You need sufficient ankle dorsiflexion to make that happen correctly, to move correctly, right? And so one of the thing I wanted to do today is to use your phone as a way of measuring your amount of ankle dorsiflexion. We're actually going to measure the angle that your ankle can flex into using an inclinometer. Now, if you have an iPhone, like I do, the inclinometer is in the utilities section under measure. If you have Android, it's not installed already. There is no default one that comes with Android. But if you go to the Google store, you can find free inclinometers that are quite good, all right? And so you might have to endure the ads associated with some of the free ones, but this is actually a pretty useful way of precisely measuring your amount of ankle dorsiflexion. Now, there are a couple reasons why ankle dorsiflexion is important, but generally speaking, when you flex your ankle, that's a signal to the hips that they need to extend, right? So if I go out here, right, flexing my ankle, if I'm about to push off, that ankle dorsiflexion that I have there is a signal to my glute muscles that I'm about to extend the leg, right? And imagine if you don't have good ankle dorsiflexion, if you only get to here, the glute never fires because the brain doesn't send the signal. The brain doesn't get the signal, I should say. The ankle doesn't send the signal that I am dorsiflexing, which is the first step to hip extension, right? So when if you extend your hip, the primary hip extensor is in fact your gluteal muscles, right? But they have to get the signal to, I need to extend. So you can imagine if you don't have good ankle dorsiflexion and you can only say get to here, well, the gluteus never gets it, and then you're using these muscles down here to move the leg, which is a compensation, right? Another thing that you want is for those toes and the feet to spread out, right? Because again, the foot is one of the most sensitive parts of the body. There are more sensors for movement purposes down there than almost anywhere, hands and feet, right? So you want your feet to spread out and sense the ground, and then as you flex your ankle and push off, those sensors are sending the signals in brain, fire glutes because I'm going to extend my hip, okay? If you've had ankle injuries, suppose you sprained your ankle may feel okay. You're walking around it, you maybe had rehab, whatever, But if you're limited, and this is often the case with sprains, is it results in limited ankle dorsiflexion or plantar flexion. So that's plantar flexion down, dorsiflexion is up, right? You need both. Okay, we're going to look at dorsiflexion today because that's important for, as I say, pushing up. So if you had an ankle sprain, you may, in fact, have quite limited ankle range of motion, even though it doesn't hurt. So, your body's always going to find a way to do something, even if it does it incorrectly. So with limited ankle range of motion, you're likely compensating elsewhere up the kinetic chain here, right? Your glutes aren't getting the message. They're not going to fire, so you're using your leg muscles to move your legs around instead of these big, nice big glute muscles, all right? So it's important to, assess. We've done some of these self-assessments, so this is another self-assessment of ankle range of motion, right? So the setup is going to look like this. You're at 90 degrees here, you're at 90 degrees here. Your back leg should be pretty close because what we're going to do is this kind of thing here, right? So if your back leg's too far back, you're going to get a gigantic hip flexor stretch, and we're not looking for that, right? We're trying to be 90-90, and what we're going to do, sometimes you can do this with a wall right in front of you, and your objective is knee to wall, right? So you're going to push forward. We're actually going to measure this angle right here, right? This is 90, obviously, right here, and we're going to measure how far my ankle will go forward. Now, one of the things you do not want to do, is let your heel come off the floor. See, so, if you do this, you're cheating, okay? The idea of any self-assessment is to try to get an accurate understanding of where your body is. And then, if we lack ankle range of motion, we can work on it, all right? So do not cheat. The instant you feel your heel start coming off the floor, stop, right? Don't say, oh yeah, I got more. You can see how, right, I sort of hit the end of my range of motion, but I can keep going if my heel comes off the floor, and that is cheating, right? Do not cheat. We're trying, as I say, to get reliable, accurate understanding of where we're at, all right? So let me bring up, this is the iPhone, as I said. I have the inclinometer, and you're going to probably have a little difficult time seeing this, but it's measuring the degrees here. And so if I put it on my tibia here, and I put it at 0, it turns green, okay? And then as I translate my knee forward, there's 25 degrees, there's 35 degrees, there is 40 degrees. I'm about at the limit of where I am. Now, it would be helpful to have a partner to do this, because what I actually would like you to do is not go like this. Like I have to do that in order to hold the phone while I'm demonstrating. What I would like you to do is you're upright, right, most of your weight is right down through here onto your down knee. This is relatively light. Remember, we're pretty close together here, right? And you're just going to translate your knee forward, trying to sense when your hip comes off. Now, as I say, I've got to lean forward to do this. Okay, and so sorry, I hit a button and it lost my. Yeah, okay. Now it's turned into a level and not an angle measure. And it doesn't, oh, there it is, okay. So as I said, we'll start at 0. it turns green. This is the iPhone one, right? So it turns green. So I'm at zero degrees. In other words, I'm flat, if you will, and then I'm going to translate that knee until, you know, I get to a little bit more than 40, but remember, I'm doing it with a lot of extra weight here because I'm trying to demonstrate to you. We'd like to just go like this, okay? And bring this down knee close enough so that you're not having to have a gigantic stretch, right? So do it a couple times, maybe I say with a partner, record it. So that was my right leg, and then I would switch, of course, and do it on my left ankle, left leg, right? Same thing. I would just hold it, right? I need to get that 0 degrees. There it is, the green. And I'm going to translate it forward, and there it is. It's about 40. So that's how you do it. Now, the first question, of course, is what's the standard for a good amount of ankle dorsiflexion? And it's about 40 degrees, right? Maybe a little bit less, but you know, if you're down at 30, for instance, and again, don't cheat, right? We're trying to understand what our bodies will do. So it doesn't do you any good to say, yeah, if I keep pushing, I can get more out of it. No, right? That's not what you want to do. So don't do that, okay? Do it correctly. Check your ankle dorsiflexion, the degree that you're bending. If you're not pretty close to 40, then we should work on that, right? And remember, both sides. So asymmetries are really, really common. So you might find, you know, your left is different than your right. And make a note of that, right? Record your actual amount of dorsiflexion that you're getting, right? So if you're less than 40 degrees, yeah, you know, obviously if you're at 39, you're pretty close. But if you're at 30 or less, then that's a pretty significant restriction. And you know, you might say, well, why? I feel fine. And you will. But your body is finding a way to compensate for that lack of ankle dorsiflexion, okay? So you're using muscles that aren't designed for the use of moving your leg, for instance, okay? So what can you do about it? Well, the first thing you want to know is, as I translated forward here, I'm going to try and center myself. As I translated forward, where do I feel the stretch? Is it back in here, or is it at the front of my foot? Okay? So if it's at the front of your foot, you feel a little pinch, that is usually indicative of a joint issue. So your talus and your calcaneus have to slide, right? When you actually bend your ankle like that, there's a little bit of movement like this, slippage in a sense. And if your joint is stuck, then you'll feel that pinch right at the front of your ankle, right? There are ways of working on that. If you feel it at the rear here, that's typically a muscle thing, not so much a joint restriction, but the muscles back here tend to be tight. So you've got the soleus muscle running down the middle, and the gastrocnemius muscles. There's two of them, one on the inside and one on the outside. And so we should work on that, right? So a couple of things you can do. One is just soft tissue work. So, you know, you take your shoe off, you put a ball, like a tennis ball or something, underneath that, and you can do this when you're sitting down, right? And you roll it. You're trying to loosen up these muscles and connective tissue, the fascia, down there, right? You should actually think about, you know, doing some toe spreading. I mean, right, I've got socks on here, I won't bother to take them off. But you know, the idea is your toe joints need to be flexible, and if they're not flexible, again, when you are pushing off, you know, like this, if your toes don't bend, the brain isn't sending the signals about, hey, dorsiflexion, hey, fire these muscles, hey, fire these muscles, right? One of the ways you can help yourself is actually working those toes around, right? Spread them out or pry them apart, right? You know, use your big toe is particularly important. So make sure it's got good range of motion, right? You should be able to bend your toes down, flex them up, spread them out. Okay, toes are not meant to be crunched together. That's a really bad thing for toes. They are meant to spread out and sense the differences in pressure, right, on the bottom of your foot, because that's sending signals to your brain. All right, so you know, you want to be doing some toe and foot stuff. I'm gonna put my shoe back on here. All right. And then you could think about these soleus stretches and gastroc stretches. So maybe next time I will cover though, you know, obviously if you Google it, you can find soleus stretch and gastroc stretches pretty easily. You know, you can do ankle circles, right? Go around clockwise a bunch of times and then counterclockwise. Make sure you do it on both ankles. If one ankle is more restricted than the other, you're going to have to concentrate a little bit more effort on that ankle, right? Don't treat them equally, in fact. If, you know, one ankle's at 20 degrees and the other's at 35, the one that's at 35 only needs a little bit of work. The one that's at 20 needs a lot of work. So you're going to have to spend more time stretching, working the bottom of your foot, working the toes, doing ankle circles, etc. All right? And I'll talk some more about that maybe next week. The ankle is very important. I mean, it's the first joint that should be mobile. Your foot is stable. Your ankle is supposed to move. All right? Your ankle is supposed to move. Your knee is meant to be stable. But if your ankle isn't mobile, guess what will happen to your knee? Your body will make it mobile. Bad thing for the knee to be. Right? Knee wants to be stable. It mostly moves in this direction, right? Shouldn't be. That's a very bad thing for the knee to be moving like that, okay? So really, really important to have proper ankle mobility. So next week we will talk some more about kinds of things you could do. One last piece of advice. I'm going to take my shoe off again. I wear these Altra shoes. I'm not necessarily saying these are the best, but you'll notice they have this really geeky wide toe box, and your toes can spread out. They're not crunched together. You know, now when I wear regular shoes, my toes feel like they're all smushed together. They don't like that. This is a very wide toe box, and there are other shoes that have wide toe boxes. They allow your feet to spread out. Very good thing, right? And also zero drop, so there's no big heel raise on shoes like this, which is another thing that you don't want to have happen, right? Okay, that's it for this week. I will catch up with you next week. We'll talk some more about the things that we can do to help improve your ankle flexibility, all right? See ya.